Hello everyone. First news update for 7th of October. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, and I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to, and hopefully you will find this episode informative and useful. And if so, please like the video and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience, especially on YouTube and Rumble, of course. Initially, video, as it is always the case lately with the first updates, will be published on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and after several hours on YouTube and Rumble channels. And in case you want to support my work and this media project, please consider to join our community on YouTube to become on Patreon, to become a sponsor of the project. Links to my Patreon or Boosty for that matter on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said, dear friends, without any further delay, let's go through some news. And the first report is about Tomahawk cruise missiles that most likely US has already transferred to Europe, potentially even to Kiev-controlled territory. And I'm saying so because yesterday US President Donald Trump was asked about the matter, and based on his answer, judgment that I come up with is as I just share with you, that probably these Tomahawk missiles already are either in Europe or on Kiev-controlled territory itself. Let's go through some details, for example, from RT's report on this topic. So Trump decided whether Ukraine will get Tomahawks. Article's headline said, US President Donald Trump has said he has already decided whether Ukraine will get long-range Tomahawk missiles. However, he has refused to reveal what it is. He actually didn't went into details, but later on I will share with you a short video clip of his statement, and I guess majority of our community will have a similar impression as I do, that probably decision was a positive one, unfortunately, which means US will further escalate with Russia with deliveries of these Tomahawk missiles. But anyways, let's continue with the news itself. First, last month, US Vice President J.D. Vance had announced that the White House was considering supplying Kyiv with these missiles. We have quote from Trump. I've sort of made a decision on that. I would have to ask the questions, where are they sending them? Trump told journalists at the White House on Monday, I am not looking to see escalation, he stressed. And this was the answer on a question of a reporter who asked her if he had made up his mind about transferring these weapons to Ukraine. So yet again, I can show you a short clip of that statement, and you'll be the judge. But I think he authorized transfer of those missiles on Kiev-controlled territory, and also militaries from US and intelligence officers, because we all understand that Kyiv regime itself is unable to use these missiles without US assistance. And when it comes to these missiles itself, Tomahawks cost an estimated 1.3 million each and have a range of 2,500 kilometers, or about 1,500 miles, meaning that they could potentially reach Moscow and far beyond. The Russian President Vladimir Putin later warned that relations between Moscow and Washington would be ruined if Kyiv gets their weapons. He also argued that Ukrainian forces would not be able to operate such a sophisticated system without the direct participation of American military personnel. Reuters, citing anonymous sources, reported that US was unlikely to supply Tomahawks to Ukraine as the current inventories were committed to the US Navy and other uses. The Financial Times also reported that some people inside the Trump's inner circle were skeptical as to the Tomahawk's ability to change battlefield dynamics. And well, Tomahawks would not change battlefield dynamics. And I said a million times before that in no circumstances globalists, neocons, and their puppet regimes all over the Western world will be able to turn the tide in this proxy war that they are waging against Russia. They have lost it, and it's only a matter of time when they will be forced to acknowledge defeat and to capitulate. But it does not mean that they would not try to prolong this proxy war as much as they can and to harm Russia as much as they can. And unfortunately, we are about to witness next phase of escalation and deliveries, potential deliveries of Tomahawk missiles on Q-controlled territory is definitely additional indicator of that. And now let me share with you, dear friends, a short video of Trump's statement and share your opinion, what you think, what Trump was hinting there about.
Decision on whether to supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine or sell them to NATO and let them sell them to Ukraine.
Yeah, I've sort of made a decision, pretty much. If you consider, yeah, I think I want to find out what they're doing with them.
Yes.
You know, where are they sending them? I guess I'd have to ask that question. That war should never have started, would have never started. Such bad judgment was used there. I think on both sides, by the way. But nobody looks good with the war with Russia and Ukraine. Nobody. That's been a horrible. This week they lost over 7,000 soldiers between the two of them. This is every week they're losing 7,000, 8,000, 5,000.
They have a range of like 1,500 miles or something, so they'd be able to.
No, I know. No, I would ask some questions. I want to see what's. I'm not looking to see escalation.
Yes.
It's insane, isn't it? Basically, he is confirming that decision on transfer of these long-range cruise missiles was already made, and at the same time, he is somehow manages to say that he is not looking for escalation. What the hell is wrong with this moron? I mean, what this deployment of Tomahawk missiles is gonna do? He thinks, please Moscow, de-escalate, or what? So unfortunately, we are a step closer to next phase of escalation that NATO will launch against Russia soon. And I have spoke about this topic on numerous occasions. I think soon we will witness combined unprecedented scale attack on Russia with simultaneous attempts of decapitation strike on Russian political and military leadership, unprecedented scale of drone and missile attacks, massive terrorist attacks inside the Russia with active use by the Western elites of their assets that they probably have on Russian territory, and simultaneous large-scale cyber attacks on Russian infrastructure. Obviously, if that is going to be the case, Moscow will have no option but to retaliate. But yet again, you never know. I think Moscow will retaliate in that case, but based on constant restraint policies that we observed, at least until now, from Russian leadership, maybe Moscow would not retaliate even. Maybe Moscow will just treat this escalation as even deployment of Tomahawk missiles as nothing extraordinary. I don't know. It is difficult to say how Moscow is going to react, either on the Tomahawks being deployed against Russia or in regards to potential unprecedented scale of assault on Russian Federation by NATO countries. We will find out. We will find out soon. But obviously, in my personal opinion, this is extremely dangerous developments that are happening. That being said, dear friends, let's go through some other news. At this point, no Russian official made any comment on these statements of Trump about Tomahawk missiles. I guess press spokesman of the Russian president will be asked today to comment on it, and during the second news update, during the live stream this evening at 10 p.m. Moscow time, I will share additional information on that. So let's see how it's gonna be. Meanwhile, dear friends, Renault is reporting, based on latest update of Russian Defense Ministry, that overnight air defense systems duty intercepted 184 drones that was launched by Kyiv regime with the assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you some specifics on that. So from 11 p.m. yesterday to 7 a.m. this morning, air defense systems on duty intercepted and destroyed 184 Ukrainian aircraft type unmanned aerial vehicles, report says. And from these 184 drones, 62 drones were intercepted over the Kursk region, 31 over the Belgorod region, 30 over the Nizhny Novgorod region, 18 over Voronezh region, 13 over the Black Sea, 6 over the Lipetsk region, 5 over Kaluga, 4 over Tula, 3 each over Rostov and Ryazan regions, 2 each over the Bryansk and Oryol regions, as well as over the Crimea and the Moscow region, including 1 flying to the capital, 1 over the Volgograd region. In response to attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces on civilian infrastructure, Russian troops are striking at the military facilities and Ukrainian military industrial complex enterprises with the precision-guided air, sea, and land-based weapons, as well as drones. This report has said quite a large-scale attempt on part of NATO and their proxy regime to strike deep into Russian territory last night. And this is not all, friends. This morning, TASS News Agency reported, also based on the Defense Ministry's update, that another 25 drones were also intercepted between 7 and 8 a.m. Moscow time. I can give you specifics on that. 16 drones were intercepted over the Black Sea, another 6 were destroyed over the Nizhny Novgorod region. From these 25 Ukrainian drones. And I guess at this point, Russian air defense systems still continue neutralizing enemy drones that have been launched towards Russia. RIA Novosti is also reporting that, according to Russian or pro-Russian underground, about 100 Ukrainian military personnel was, or 100 foreign mercenaries that are fighting on behalf of the regime were neutralized in the Kharkov region. So the report is that Russian troops killed approximately 100 foreign mercenaries of the Ukrainian armed forces in Kharkov. Sergei Lebedev, coordinator of the Nikolaev underground, told RIA Novosti, which is quite a big losses on part of foreign mercenaries. Lately, dear friends, as you know, Russian armed forces activated their long-range precision strikes on the military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv region, on military industrial complex, and also on the points of concentration of enemy forces. And I guess during one of those strikes, point of concentration of foreign mercenaries were neutralized. According to reports, these mercenaries were from Latin America and from Eastern Europe. Also, as I already said, Russian armed forces are conducting retaliatory strikes, and this morning, Ukraine's energy and railway infrastructure, among other things. According to Ukrainian authorities, the locomotive depot, power supply section, and traction substations in Poltava region were hit. There are train delays as a result of that. An energy facility was also damaged, leaving a significant part of their city without power. Also, the France's Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that, according to DPR authorities, militants, terrorists, basically from Azov neo-Nazi formation, ran away from Krasnoarmeysk, which is Pokrovsk. Let me give you some details on that. So, units of the Azov battalion organization designated as a terrorist and a banned in Russia, recently deployed to Krasnoarmeysk, was unable to hold its positions and left the city in groups. This was reported by Igor Timakovsky, advisor to the head of the DPR. According to him, units of Azov militants has left Krasnoarmeysk, Pokrovsk. Kimakovsky added that Azov fighters were recently deployed to the city, but were unable to hold out under the pressure from Russian assault groups and the airstrikes. He also added that some of the Azov fighters were killed while attempting to leave Pokrovsk or Krasnoarmeysk. So this is it when it comes to this highly advertised in the West, this neo-Nazi formation. Whenever pressure is increasing, they are running away from a battlefield. This is usually their case always, right? And good news for Russian side, of course. Those Azov terrorists, of course, have to be neutralized. All of them, literally all of them. By the way, they are terrorists, Nazis, and there can be no mercy towards these kind of elements. It's just that's obvious. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that well, it is 14 days since Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is provided with electricity solely by diesel generators. So the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant has been receiving electricity from its own needs for 14 days now from emergency diesel generators. They are operating normally, and specialists are monitoring the situation. This was reported to TASS by Evgenia Yashina, ZMPP communications director. And even though these diesel electric generators are operating in a normal way, and all the crucial segments of the ZMPP are supplied with the electricity, including cooling system. Of course, this is generally speaking not normal when there is no outside power supply, and the entire station relies on these diesel electric generators. And the reason why there is no outside power supply is that Kyiv regime, with their orders, after orders from London, British political and military leadership, intelligence community, constantly shelling Zaporozhye nuclear power plant and destroying power lines that are supplying Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. And also they are shelling areas where Russian engineers are trying to restore these damaged power lines. I remind you, dear friends, that during communication with the participants of Valdai Discussion Club a couple of days ago, Russian president stated that this behavior on part of Kyiv regime is extremely dangerous, and there is always a possibility that Russia might mirror the actions of their hostile side. And basically, Russian president hinted that there is nuclear power plants on Kyiv-controlled territories too, in the western parts of Ukraine, I believe. I don't think Russia will take action against those nuclear power plants, but you just never know. Only so much terrorist attacks, only so much hostility from the collective West and their proxy regime can be tolerated without mirroring their actions, without conducting retaliatory strikes on unprecedented scale. And maybe soon we will see such retaliatory strikes. Hard to tell. But when it comes to ZMPP, dear friends, we also have this report about a fuel storage on ZMPP for these diesel electric generators. The shelling by the Ukrainian armed forces on their fire station at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant that happened just now, recently, did not affect the fuel supply to their backup sources that currently power the entire plant. Evgenia Yashina, the plant's communication director, told RIA Novosti, and according to her, fuel storage is constantly renewed. So there is constant deliveries of the fuel for these generators to make sure that whatever the case, crucial infrastructure of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant will get necessary power to make sure that there's going to be no nuclear disaster on the plant. But yet again, situation is extremely dangerous, by the way. Situation is extremely dangerous. This is not normal when for 2 weeks, nuclear power plant, biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, is supplied with electricity only by local diesel electric generators. It's just not normal, period. Nothing to discuss there. And this situation is caused by London, first of all, and then their proxy regime that operates under the orders of the London and Washington, of course. We should not forget about Washington's role in all these hostilities against Russia, of course. Meanwhile, RIA Novosti is reporting that the EU has agreed to restrict travel for Russian diplomats. What a surprise. At one point, I said in my previous updates and quite a few times that at one point probably EU will ban any Russian citizen to enter EU's territory, right? And at that point, I guess Moscow will finally make decision to cut the diplomatic ties with these hostile states in the collective West and to pull out Russia from all sorts of so-called international organizations that are based mainly in Europe with their headquarters, right? And we are getting closer and closer to that point because yet again, soon probably no one, even diplomats from Russia, wouldn't be able to enter the EU's territory or territory of European part of Eurasian continent, let's say this way. So EU countries have agreed to restrict travel by Russian diplomats within their union. The Financial Times reports, citing sources. The initiative promoted by the Czech Republic is a part of a new sanctions package being developed by Brussels. Unanimous support is required for the package to be adopted. Hungary is the last country to oppose the measure, but Budapest lifted its veto, according to this report. Financial Times sources also are saying that the proposed measure will force Russian diplomats to inform their host country of their travel plans before crossing their border. Okay, by the way. Okay. I guess some countermeasures will be taken by Russian side, and the diplomats from EU member states will have to inform Russian Foreign Ministry also about any move that they do outside of embassy. And if I guess it will make all the sense if Moscow will demand from so-called diplomatic staff of their EU countries to literally inform foreign ministry about every single step they are making outside of embassy. If they go in a grocery store, they should report about it. If they go into, I don't know, theater, they should report about it up front. If they go to, I don't know, restaurant, they should report about it up front. So I think Russia is in a position to make extremely difficult for European so-called diplomats to stay in Russia. We can also retaliate, and we should retaliate by this way. This additional requirements will definitely make almost impossible for these European so-called diplomats to operate on Russian territory. So why should not we make their lives more difficult? Because they are clearly trying to make life difficult for all Russians, right? Not just for Russian diplomats, but for all Russians. And I remind you, dear friends, that there are also reports, especially in the Western media, that for the 19th package of sanctions, EU is considering to almost completely ban issuing visas for Russian citizens or make it extremely difficult to get one for Russians, right? So it's, as I said, it's not just assault on Russian diplomats, but EU is openly basically targeting Russian citizens. And they should be punished for that, I think. Also, when it comes to EU, by the way, Ursula von der Leyen head of European Commission, was giving a speech before European Parliament, and you guessed her who she is blaming for opposition towards her among even EU bureaucracy. She is blaming Putin, by the way. She is blaming Putin and Russia for that, which is quite something, really. Which is quite something. I have short video of statement of Ursula Bursula, but I don't think she worth that much time. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that Merkel's statements about the special military operation infuriated Poland, and there is diplomatic row now between Berlin and Warsaw. So former German Chancellor Angela Merkel's statement that Poland and the Baltic states indirectly provoked the launch of a special military operation in Ukraine has sparked a diplomatic row between Warsaw and Berlin, according to Berlin newspaper, British newspaper, The Telegraph. Merkel's intervention sparked outrage in Poland, with one former prime minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, suggesting that her complacency toward Russia had seriously damaged European security, the article said. As the publication notes, German-Polish relations are already strained by a dispute over border security sparked by German government's response to the migrant crisis. Poland has also long been frustrated by Germany's naive and, in its view, complacent attitude towards Russia, both under Merkel and successor Olaf Scholz. Well, you can guess how Russophobic Polish so-called elites are, by the way, that they think Germany's political elites are not hostile enough towards Russia. Can you imagine that? Germany is the second country after the US when it comes to money and weapons supply to a Kiev regime, and Warsaw is still demanding more. It's not enough for Warsaw. So you can guess how sickening the state of mind of Polish elites are, by the way. Elites of the entire collective West, but in this particular case, I'm talking about Polish elites, that they still think that Germany's political leadership is not hostile enough to get towards Russia. It's insane, man. It is crazy what is happening in Europe. And well, on this very matter, by the way, Finland is in headlines again, Finnish political leadership, and I guess Alexander Stubb, president of Finland, is in a holiday or something, because for the last couple of days he did not make some hostile statements towards Russia, as he usually does. So that's my assumption, is that maybe he is on some holiday or something. Or maybe he feels sick, but he's been replaced. He's been replaced by Foreign Minister Jelena Voltanen, who claimed that Finland plans to impose tariffs on all Russian imports, all of it, whatsoever. And you know what? Okay, go ahead and do it. And maybe all of Europe will go ahead and impose 100, 200, 300, 500% tariffs on Russian imports. Of course, that will weaken European economy even further. And eventually, maybe in the long run, this will be beneficial for Russian Federation, because weaker their hostile states are, then I guess better, because they will be less capable of harming us, right? So, okay, let's go, Finland. Impose some 1,000% tariffs on Russian imports. I have no numbers there, friends, about volume of trade between Finland and Russia right now. It's very little, right? Because trade between Russia and the European states basically has decimated after these 20,000 plus sanctions that was imposed on Russia by Western countries. But I guess there is some trade still happening, even between Russia and Finland, and soon probably that trade will fade off also. Let's continue with some other news and Middle East. By the way, Middle East is of course makes headlines, and Netanyahu is selling another war against Iran to his Western backers. First of all, to US. He went to claim that Iran now is developing 8,000-kilometer range ballistic missiles. Sooner, Iran will get add another 3,000 kilometers to their range, and at that point, Iran can strike Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. Okay, New York City, even Washington, Boston, Miami. Uh, and Netanyahu is also basically implying that Iran will have a nuclear weapon on the forehead of the U.S. So you already know why he's talking about this stuff, isn't it? He's preparing ground for next phase of escalation in the Middle East and the second stage of attack on Iran. Let's listen to some short video, by the way, when Netanyahu is talking about all this stuff.
Ballistic missiles that are intercontinental ballistic missiles for 8,000-kilometer range. What does that mean? They add another 3,000 kilometers, and they've got under their atomic guns, New York City in target, Washington, Boston, Miami, Mar-a-Lago. Okay? So that is a very great danger. You don't want to be under the nuclear gun of these people who are not necessarily rational and who chant death to America.
So there is nothing to add, really. Nothing to add there. Netanyahu is selling another war to his American proxies, and it is the case, by the way. U.S. is of course Israeli proxy. It's not other way around. It's U.S. that is run by Israel and ruined by Israel, and more people are waking up to this reality in the U.S. In the U.S. itself, and for example, one of the leading voices in MAGA movement, Steve Bannon, spoke about this topic once again, and I can give you short clip of his statements too. Let's see what he has to say here.
Netanyahu have to approach. He totally trumped up, bald-faced lie about the Persians. They had greater strategic ambitions, and they didn't care if they sucked the United States into a 20 or 30-year war. Those days are over. President Trump has asserted himself that, hey, you are a protector. What did Ignatius say? He's given orders, right? He's given orders, the way it should be. If they want to go do it on their own, hey, God bless you. Go for it. But do not suck us in. We're not in for this. It's outrageous what has happened over the last couple of years, and we still don't have an investigation on October 7th. And believe me, if the hands were clean of Netanyahu, you would have had an investigation and been out in 30 days. Write that down with your number 2 principal, because that's going to come, and you're going to be shocked by it. There's no way that just kind of happened.
So Bannon is kind of bragging about that Israel or Netanyahu would not be able to drag US in to another war in the Middle East or elsewhere, but he is wrong. We all understand that he is very much wrong, or he is not understands, or maybe he's just refusing to believe what is the dynamics in relationships between Israeli lobby, Zionists, and their US political class. I guess Bannon is refusing to accept the reality that a US political class is a servant of Israel, servant of Israeli lobby and the Zionists. And they will do whatever they've been told to do by Israel. Period. There is nothing to even discuss there. This is just too obvious, right? Too obvious.
Absolutely. It's crystal clear.
So, thank you, Alisa. This is AI, by the way. That is basically confirming what I just said. Okay, Alisa, please let me continue, please. Thank you. No, Alisa, stop! Holy moly, man. Unbelievable. My apologies, dear friends. I'm forgetting to turn off this device before I start recording. Anyways, let's continue. Let's continue, dear friends, with some other news. And well, as I said, already preparations being done, not just on part of Israel, but also on part of US for next stage in escalation against Iran. US is sending more and more of its military equipment, even aircraft strike groups towards the Middle East, increasing its military capabilities there. Israel is, of course, already selling next stage of escalation, as you see in those statements of Netanyahu. Although, by the way, of course, we all seeing, observing these developments, and Moscow, Beijing, New Delhi, many other capitals worldwide. I will say majority of the capitals worldwide, maybe with the exception of Western world, opposing any escalation, any further escalation in the Middle East, and definitely opposing regional war to be provoked there, right, in this part of the world. And one of the ways to try at least to strengthen their, or to minimize, let's say this way, to minimize risks of yet another attacks on Iran, is to supply Iran with all sorts of weapon systems, right, to increase Iran's military capabilities. And I guess that's exactly what quite a number of nations that are friendly towards Iran are doing right now, and they're all past several months since the 12-day war. And among these nations are, of course, Russia too. Russia Federation and Iran are strategic partners, and we are on a regular basis, every other day, receiving news that yet another cargo plane take off in the direction of Iran, and all sorts of speculations are circulating on internet what these cargo planes are delivering. Some say it's modern fighter jets, some say it's not just fighter jets but also air defense systems, some other weapons. Clearly it's not humanitarian aid. That's what we can say for sure. Clearly these cargo planes are not flying from Russia to Iran, from other countries towards Iran, for no reason. Something is being delivered, and yet again, one of the ways to strengthen security in the Persian Gulf area is to enhance military capabilities of Iran. Because we all understand Tehran has no plans to attack any of its neighbors, right? And Moscow and Beijing, other capitals from emerging multipolar world, will use all the means to convince Gulf states, neighbors of Iran, that there is no threat for them from Tehran, none whatsoever, and they should never ever allow themselves to be dragged into war against Iran by the Western elites, by globalists, neocon Zionists, and so on. And Iran is receiving a lot of weapons, by the way, and they're preparing. Maybe this will deter Western so-called elites and their allies, including Zionists, from attacking Iran. Maybe not. But BRICS and collectivist countries are doing what they can, it seems like, right? Also, dear friends, on internet, speculations still continue about relationships between Charlie Kirker, that was killed there just recently, and Israeli lobby, right? And it seems like Israel is increasingly losing conservative voices in America, right? And one of these conservative voices are Candice Owens, and she shared some screenshots, by the way, of the conversation between Charlie Kirk and some other individual when Charlie Kirk himself is basically saying that he's kind of done with Israeli lobby. Let's listen to a short video, by the way, on this matter. I think this is interesting, definitely interesting.
So Charlie writes in this group chat, just lost another huge Jewish donor, 2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Somebody writes, oh. Charlie writes, Jewish donors play into all of the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. And somebody writes, a donor writes, please do not invite Candace. That might feel good short term, but it's not good long term, in my opinion. Like all groups, you're going to get a wide variety of opinions. That nasty free will thing that God bestowed on us makes life frustrating at times after the dust settles a bit, maybe. So again, this is 48 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He was very clear and he was very explicit, and he did not back down, not in that Hamptons meeting, which they're all lying about, nor in this text thread. I'm not going to reveal the names of the other 7. Actually, you know what? I disagree with myself 4 seconds ago. Let's just throw in Josh Hammer for funsies. He's on this chat, okay?
So you see what is going on, and I think this story around the tragic death of Charlie Kirk still has many questions that is being unanswered. I would not speculate on the matter. Let the investigative journalists do their job and investigate what happened, why, who was behind the conspiracy, if there was any conspiracy, right? But clearly, questions are out there, and Candice Owens, one of the leading voices in the conservative aisle of U.S. public, is highlighting this, right? And as I said, Israel is losing a big time support of American conservatives and traditionalists. This is true. Even if Israel has strong grip on political class, on a level of alternative media, on the level of independent individuals in a conservative community, on the level of community itself, Israeli lobby is losing its grip for sure. For sure. Let's continue with some other news, dear friends. RT is reporting that there were violent clashes in Syria that broke between Kurdish forces and Syrian regime forces. There's a report is that violent clashes erupted between the Kurdish fighters, including their Syrian Democratic Force, SDF, and the government forces in Aleppo on Monday night, according to several media outlets. At least 7 people were killed and there are dozens injured in exchange of gunfire, according to North Press agency. People in various Aleppo neighborhoods rallied against the government. The outlet reports Al Arabiya cites the Syrian Defense Ministry as saying that the government was moving as a part of its redeployment plan. We are committed to our agreements with the SDF and have no intention to carry out any military operations. The quote reader one way or another, but there was clashes in Aleppo. I have seen some videos of intense close-range battles and targetings of each other by these sites. And what can we say, dear friends? Syria is doomed, isn't it? Very day, secular regime of Bashar Assad was overthrown by this Western and Turkish proxy forces. Syria was doomed. That's it. From now on, there is, in my personal opinion, not even slight chance that Syria ever will be actually united country run by Damascus. It's just not possible. Most likely, disintegration process will last for years. In some, in some ways, maybe even decades. But eventually, after some time, they're gonna be no more Syria on the political map as we knew it. It is what it is. Also, when it comes to Middle Eastern region, by the way, one might argue Afghanistan is also part of Middle East, bigger Middle Eastern. Although it's geographically speaking, it's Central Asia more like. But anyways, Lavrov this morning has arrived at the President Hotel for opening of the 7th season of Moscow format consultations on Afghanistan. He has included talks with Afghan Foreign Minister Khan Muttaqi. So today there will be negotiations between the Russian Foreign Minister and Afghan Foreign Minister, and I think Moscow will make it very clear to their Afghan counterparts that presence of U.S. militaries on Afghan soil is absolutely unacceptable for Moscow. And if for whatever reason Kabul will decide to trade with the U.S. administration, do some business, they give them a Bagram airport or Bagram air base, and in reverse, the U.S. will offer Taliban government in Afghanistan some money or something else. In that case, Kabul will lose support of Moscow and Beijing, at least, right? And there are a number of other capitals, by the way, too, in the region. And I remind you, dear friends, that relationships between, for example, Afghanistan and Tajikistan are very tense, right? And the Taliban government still not is in control of Panjshir Canyon, or entire region, basically, that called Panjshir, where mainly Tajik and Uzbek ethnic minorities are living. And so let's see how things gonna develop. There are different rumors on internet. According to some, Taliban government actually considering to allow U.S. militaries back on Bagram air base, and of course this would not be acceptable for regional countries, by the way. Not for Moscow, not for Russia, not for China, not for Iran, not for Central Asian republics, not for nobody. Right? So it's going to be very serious talks. It's going to be very serious talks between Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and the Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, Khan Muttaqi, today. Let's see if they will make some combined press conference, and if they will be asked about this topic of Bagram air base. Of course, I will report additional information if it will become available. Also, Interfax is reporting that Trump has abandoned his pursuit of a diplomatic agreement with Venezuela. I mean, come on, man. As if Trump was ever actually pursuing diplomatic resolution with Venezuela. Of course, he was never even trying, by the way, to reach any agreement with Maduro's government. Trump and his team are all about regime change in Venezuela and recognizing this Bolivarian republic. And I guess at this point, it's only a matter of potentially days, even maximum couple of weeks before White House will go ahead with a decapitation strike on Venezuela's government and militaries, and a direct military operation, basically. And on this very topic, dear friends, CNN reported about ways how White House is going to justify its military actions against Venezuela. So according to a report from CNN, Trump's administration has drafted a classified legal opinion authorizing lethal strikes against the secret list of cartels and their suspected drug traffickers. According to sources familiar with the matter, the opinion prepared by the Justice Department Office of a Legal Counsel argues that the president has the authority to use deadly force against the broad range of criminal organizations deemed to pose an imminent threat to Americans. The classified list reportedly extends beyond those cartels publicly labeled as terrorist groups, giving the administration wide mandate to act militarily. So you see, they are coming up with some clearly dodgy justifications, legal justifications, or military action to be taken against Venezuela. And as I said, it's only a matter of days, maybe weeks, and unfortunately, people of Venezuela will face U.S. aggression. And then it's up to them, it's up to people of Venezuela what their future gonna be. If they will fight, there is no way U.S. can defeat them. But if people of Venezuela will decide to not to fight and to agree on recolonization of their country, then U.S. Probably will have a relatively easy run over this Bolivarian republic. Soon everything will become clear, at least a little bit more clear. Also, interesting report is coming from Georgia, dear friends, former Soviet Republic. According to Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Kobakidze, ex-president Salome Zurabishvili was ready to enter presidential palace if latest coup d'etat attempt was successful. He says Brussels directly was involved in their support or promotion or orchestrating this latest coup d'etat that took place on 4th of October, by the way. Pro-EU Zurabishvili has openly plotting her return to power since the last year. And, well, these claims from Kobakidze definitely indicates that maybe a criminal case will be opened against ex-president Zurabishvili also, who is a foreign asset, by the way, clearly. I mean, she was born in France. She's an asset of French intelligence and U.S. intelligence services. Hardly anybody has any doubts about it. And I'm quite sure Georgian security services have enough evidences to confirm that in a courtroom, right? And so I don't know where Zurabishvili is right now. If she is still in Georgia, then after this kind of allegations that she was participating, she was a part of this latest coup d'etat attempt, then of course some measures have to be taken, right, against her also. 5 other figures among leadership of this Western-controlled so-called opposition and NGOs and so on already been detained by Georgian law enforcement agencies for their criminal conduct. Also interesting news. I mean, let's share a couple of news about some economical stuff. Iran, dear friends, discovers 10 trillion more cubic feet of natural gas. Iran already has the world's second largest gas reserves, and they just got larger, which is great news, of course, for Iran, for the people of Iran. But question is, will globalists, neocons, and Zionist allies allow Iran to live in peace and develop its potential in all directions, including energy field? This is a big question. This is a big question. Unfortunately, as I said many times before, there is a tremendously high risk that globalists, neocons, and Zionists will provoke a regional war in the Middle East on religious and ethnic lines to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and cut off China and global South in general from original energy sources. And well, at least for now, I see no reason to discount these threats. Threat is real, I think, and the region is getting closer and closer to large-scale destabilization due to hostilities from, but again, Israeli lobbies, Zionists, and their allies in US, neocons, in Europe, globalists, and so on. And I will end the news segment, dear friends, on this report from RIA Novosti that the stock market price of gold has reached a new all-time high. The exchange price of gold has reached a new all-time high, exceeding $4,000 per troy ounce, according to trading data. By 7:27 a.m. Moscow time, December gold December gold futures futures by the way on the New York Comex exchange has risen by $19.75 or 0.5% to $3,996 per troy ounce. Earlier in the trading season, the price of the precious metal had reached $4,000, setting new all-time high. And well, that means yet another my prediction, by the way, long-standing prediction has become true. You remember I said, I guess, early, when I began making this project, working on this project, I said shortly after, like 3 years ago, that it's only a matter of time and the gold will reach $4,000 because process of de-dollarization is unstoppable. Western financial and banking system cannot be trusted, and the Western uh, stock markets are the bubble, right? And more people will invest in precious metals, among other things that are more stable, more reliable. And I was correct. I was correct, by the way. I predicted that gold will reach 4,000, and it did. It did. Which is interesting. Which is interesting. And so this is it, dear friends, for today's news segment. Either find it informative and useful. And if so, it again, please click that like button and leave some commentary if you are watching on YouTube and Rumble. And if you want to support my work, if you want to support this project, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, then you can assist. You can help through several means. You can donate through PayPal platform or Boosty platform. Links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. And also you can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, where I have extra content on regular basis. And these news updates themselves, first news updates initially are published on Patreon and Boosty, and only after several hours on YouTube and Rumble. So while subscribing to my Patreon or Boosty, you will get also early access to these updates while simultaneously supporting my work. Link to my Patreon and Boosty is, of course, also under this video description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now, dear friends. Later on today at 10 p.m. Moscow time, I will launch live stream with the main news update. I hope you will join the conversation. Yesterday's live stream, during yesterday's live stream, only 60-70 people from our community managed to join on YouTube. Hopefully today there will be more of us on the stream. Okay, this is it for now, dear friends. Have a wonderful day and take care. See you later.